Hey everyone, this is David. I know you're used to hearing me jump into lesson plans and share what I'm doing right now in my classroom, but this week I wanted to try something different. I'm pulling an episode out of the podcast archives to share an interview I did in 2018. That spring, I interviewed 10 different people to ask them about their experiences with Orff Schulwerk and to help get a better perspective of what Orff Schulwerk is, what it isn't, pedagogy, teaching ideas, what you can expect should you decide to do Orff Levels training, why you should visit a local Orff chapter, and lots more. These interviews were so fun and fascinating, and I wanted to share them again with y'all. Thanks so much for listening. Here's the show. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 28 of Make Moments Matter, a music education podcast, where I share lesson ideas, songs, games, and inspiring things for your elementary music classroom. My name is David Rao, and I am the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, and a variety of other platforms when you search my name or Make Moments Matter. Normally on this podcast, I spend the episode sharing teaching tips, lesson ideas, tricks for classroom management, and a whole host of other topics. For the next few weeks, I'll be doing something a little different. In these episodes, I'm taking some time away from the normal routine to conduct a series of interviews with music teachers from around the country. I want to take a little time to really think and talk about Orff Schulwerk, what it is, what it isn't, pedagogy, teaching ideas, what you can expect should you decide to do training or join a local Orff chapter, and more. Maybe you've been to a workshop at a local Orff chapter or have seen a presenter at your state conference who has training in Orff Schulwerk. These sorts of experiences are great, but definitely don't give the full picture. And I want more people to really know about the ins and outs of the Orff approach, how to utilize the pitch percussion instruments that are so often associated with Orff Schulwerk, ideas about teaching recorder, movement, resources, and a whole lot more. Throughout this series of conversations, I'll be talking with leaders in the world of Orff Schulwerk and people who have lived with this teaching approach. If you've missed the last few episodes, you'll definitely want to go back and hear the other episodes in this series. In each of those conversations, we cover a variety of Orff Schulwerk related topics, from recorder to pitch percussion, lesson scaffolding, movement, online resources, and a lot more. In this episode, I get a chance to talk with Karen Petty. Karen teaches at Gold Rush Elementary School in Parker, Colorado, and has over 35 years of experience teaching music to children. Karen has been quite active within the Orff community and over the years has held leadership positions with the New York City chapter, the Rocky Mountain chapter, and on the national level, where she has served as region representative and chaired several committees for AOSA. Karen currently serves as recording secretary for the American Orff Schulwerk Association National Board of Trustees. She has presented at 7 national AOSA conferences and is involved with Orff Levels courses around the country. Before I get to my conversation with Karen, I wanted to talk a little bit more about teacher education courses, which are often just referred to as the levels. The American Orff Schulwerk Association approves courses that meet its criteria and follow the AOSA teacher education curriculum. This comprehensive 3-level curriculum, composed of pedagogy, recorder, and movement, is designed to develop the musicianship, creativity, and teaching strategies of an adult learner. Basically, the levels courses show you the Orff approach to teaching music to children at the same time that they develop your personal musicianship and skill set. I know that through the last few episodes, we've talked quite a bit about levels training and the benefits. You'll hear a bit more about that in this podcast episode as well. So let me tell you about how you can get connected to the teacher education course that's right for you. If you go to the American Orff Schulwerk Association website, which is aosa.org, you'll find a link to the teacher education courses when you look in the top taskbar under professional development. It should be the third thing down under AOSA teacher education courses. If you click that link, it will take you to a page that describes a little bit more about the levels courses. And if you want more information that's specific about what actually happens in the different courses, you could look through the handbook or other things there that are linked down below. But really what you want to do is find a course that's local to you and get connected to talk with either the course director or someone who's involved with the course so that you can learn more about what happens and when in your area. So if you'd like to find a location that's close to you, my suggestion would be to click on the map that is actually sort of right smack dab in the middle of the page. If you click on the map, it will take you to a list of all the levels courses that are being offered around the country this summer. And you can do a couple different things. You can search and look just by the dates. So if you're trying to fit in a course in a certain time, you can go through that list and look just by the dates. Almost all the courses are in June or July, though some of them bleed over into August in some cases. Or if you've taken level 1 and you need to take level 2 or 3, or you'd like to take a master level or a post level 3 course, you can limit by under the map, you can click show only level 2 or show only level 3 in case that's what you're interested in doing this summer. But you can also just click on the map and sort of search through to see what levels courses are close to you. So for instance, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and when I click on the map, I can find quite a few courses that are within driving distance. The closest course for me would be the course that's hosted by Gwinnett County Public Schools, and I can find that just by clicking on the map. But I do live a little bit to the north and west of the city, and I find there's another Orff course that's right there, and that's being held at Shorter University, and I can click on that. There's a little pin in the map on a little Google map, and I could click on a link that says show details. But say I wanted to go maybe closer to home, or I wanted to go to a different course, maybe near family or something else, or there's another reason I wanted to go somewhere else. I could just search anywhere in the country by zooming into that area and clicking on an Orff Levels course. So for instance, if I wanted to go back to Kansas City this summer to see friends and visit there for a while, I could click on the pin that's closest to Kansas City, and I would find Baker University. And it shows that Baker is only offering level 2 this summer. So if I didn't want to do level 2, but I wanted to see other things, I could again limit on the map and then click into the map and see what options are available to me for other levels. The map is actually really great. It's a Google map. It's interactive. It's very easy to navigate. So if you're looking for a course, it's great that you can limit by level 1, level 2, level 3, etc. And it's also great that you can limit by area. You can find a course that's close to you. So what do you do once you find that course? On the listing down below the map, I would say find that course and then click on the name of the course. So for instance, if I wanted to look at the University of Missouri in St. Louis, they offer a lot of levels, and that's offered in June. So say that hits my time frame and I'm interested and I know that I want to do that. Well, if you click on that, it will take you to contact information for the location. So for the University of Missouri, St. Louis, if you wanted to map out the exact address, that sort of thing. They also have the email address for Brian Burnett, who's the course director, and they show you the different people who are on staff who are teaching the levels and different components of the levels at that course. And then you could click on the website link, and that takes you to the actual workshop information on the website for the University of Missouri, St. Louis. So there are a lot of ways to find the courses that are close to you. And then once you've found that course, I would really encourage you to reach out to the course director. Some courses and areas levels have closed. They have enough participants already, but many have not. And the only way you're going to know that is if you actually contact the person there, and they could say, this is a great course for you, or they could say, we have housing and here are pricing options and here are different things. That's the way that you find out what you need to learn about the Orff course. If you need a little bit more encouragement after listening to these episodes and hearing all the great things that people have to say, if you still need a little bit more encouragement, a really fun thing to do on the AOSA website, if you go to teacher education courses, on the left-hand side, there's some navigation options to take you to other things on the website, but there's a little box, it's lime green, and it says testimonials. And if you click on View All, you can see some really, really cool and thoughtful reflections about what the Orff levels really are. And in fact, I just want to read one more to you so that to give you just a little bit more encouragement to reach out and try an Orff levels course this summer. This is a quote by Rosemary Pillanero about her levels experience, and I just wanted to read it as an encouragement for you. She said, "Levels courses completely changed the way I teach. I became more aware of the process of teaching and not just the outcome of my lessons. Level 1 gave me a great deal of materials to use in my lessons. Level 2 stretched me musically and helped me grow as a teacher and musician. Level 2 also gave me the confidence to come up with my own lesson ideas, incorporating the Orff process. I would not be the teacher I am today if it had not been for the excellent training I received through Levels courses. I look forward to taking Level 3 this summer." Like I said, you can find any Levels course in your area or around the country that might work well for the time that you have free this summer or the area that you live in, and you can find that by going to aosa.org and then clicking under Professional Development the link that says AOSA Teacher Education Courses. I am so happy to welcome Karen Petty to the podcast. Karen has used the Orff Schulwerk approach for many years and has taken all of her Orff levels. Karen has taught all the various components of Orff Schulwerk levels at Utah State University, Eastern Washington University, and Metro State University. She's a part of the Rocky Mountain Orff chapter and is recording secretary for the American Orff Schulwerk National Board of Trustees. Karen Petty, thanks so much for talking with me today.
I'm delighted.
Well, I'm so excited to talk with you about a lot of different things, but before we sort of get more specific, I have a couple sort of general questions.
Okay.
So just to give listeners a better idea about yourself, where do you teach and what grades or areas you teach? How often do you see students? What can you tell us a little bit about your teaching situation?
Okay. I teach at a public school that is kindergarten through fifth grade. I have about 600 students. So right now I have a crazy schedule this school year. I have kindergartners that I see every 3 days. I see the fifth grade for a solid week, every 4 weeks, and first through fourth grade I see for a solid week every 3 weeks. So 3 different calendars going on, but I have 9 classes a day, and that's it.
That's a lot to try and keep straight.
It is.
I think I would need color coding or a map or something to get around that. But I think we all have a version of that sort of a schedule going on. Could you tell me just something fun or interesting about where you live and maybe the state or area you live in?
Sure. Well, I live in Colorado, which is so beautiful. It's where I grew up. I taught out of state for 11 years, but I came back when my grandchildren started getting born, and I was so happy to be able to come back to where my roots are.
Well, I have some great friends in Colorado, and they all talk about how beautiful it is, so I understand why you would want to go back. How did you become a part of the Orff community, and what drew you to Orff Schulwerk?
When I was in college, I started out with the thought of being a high school band director. I was a saxophone major. I played piano early on and continue to play. And that was kind of my mindset as I started into college. But I had the opportunity to observe in different classroom settings. And I saw some teachers that really piqued my interest. What kids were able to do and what they were learning was so different from elementary general music when I was a kid. It really captured my interest. So there was a person that I wanted to student teach with, and she said, well, I will only take you for a student teacher if you've had some Orff training. So I did my level 1 Orff training before I ever student taught. That's how I got started.
Wow, I bet that gave you a great foundation going into student teaching.
I really recommend it. But for anyone, whenever you start, it's the right time. And whether you've had experience or you're just getting started, it's always the right time.
I totally agree. I think it's great experience and training. Could you, I mean, I know you teach at Orff levels courses, so you could go on probably for a long time, but could you give us just a brief 2-minute or less description of what you believe the Orff Schulwerk approach really is?
I'll try. I think there are different media that come up in every lesson, but in no particular order. There's singing and a joy in singing. There's the element of play, whether that's playing instruments or playing games. There's speech that is a big part of the lesson. There's movement at the heart of many things. Kids move so freely, and we really do them a disservice if we try to tie them down. I think that another big part of Orff Schulwerk is that the notation comes naturally as kids want to save their own work or see what somebody else has. Then the reason for notation comes naturally.
And do you think that there are maybe any misconceptions that people have about Orff Schulwerk or levels training or an aspect of the Orff world that you'd like to speak to?
I think a lot of times when people think of Orff Schulwerk, they think first of the tone bar instruments and the Orff instrumentarium. And that's only one part of it. An Orff process can happen without the instruments. We have our bodies, we have our singing voice, we have body percussion, we can move creatively, there's small percussion, and the tone bar instruments themselves are just one component and not the most important.
You know, I think it's interesting that you talk about the pitch percussion instruments because I agree that a lot of people sort of seem to see that as the thing that defines Orff Schulwerk, and at the same time, I feel like a lot of people maybe don't have a great grasp of where to start or how to incorporate those instruments. So if you were talking to someone who's new to Orff Schulwerk, where would you encourage them to start? What would you do first?
Well, before I ever get to the instruments, we do some mallet exploration, just playing with the mallets. I'll usually dump them out of my mallet buckets like there's a mess of mallets, and we'll just have a student come in and find 2 mallets that match. And we'll do games where we're just playing around with them and moving different ways and getting used to hanging on to them. So just getting used to the mallet and finding the right mallet grip first. And then what we do is coming out of movement. So if the kids have been doing walking and running and jumping or hopping, doing the same things with just our hands and mallets, and starting and stopping before we ever are playing the instruments. We're just playing around with the mallets first.
That makes sense. It's like an incremental scaffolding feature. So when they actually get to the instruments, they have something they feel very comfortable about.
Right. So they already know how to hold the mallets, and then we just do a quick check of, is your thumb on the mallet? Do you have a little tail at the end? Is the top of your hand looking up at the ceiling so it's like a turtle shell? And then when we first play the tone bars, all the bars are on, and we're just exploring in the same way that we did movement. What is it like if we're walking one hand and then the other, taking turns? What if we went really fast and we did running and jumping and then stop sign, and everybody stops. And then we just plug it into stories. Usually I'll use one of the kids' names and just invent a story of something fun they were doing, and that has different ways of traveling. And everyone is creating the soundscape underneath that goes with the footsteps.
Yeah. I know that there might be some people out there listening who say, or who are thinking in their head, right, but that's a very expensive instrument. I mean, is there anything that you do or say to kids to pull them back, or do you say that, or how do you teach them to enjoy that while also caring for the instrument?
The advantage of starting with just the mallet play is that I can already see how hard they're striking the floor or a balloon. And we've got that ironed out before they're ever on an instrument. And then the gentle touch. I have taken mallets from students that are being too abusive if they're hitting the instrument too hard, and encouraging them to watch others and then try again. They are expensive instruments, and it's important that the kids know to start with what a privilege it is to have them, and that we're going to care for them so that we have them for the long haul.
Right. Well, if we're talking about instruments, we've talked a little bit about the pitched percussion instruments. How do you feel about the recorder? How do you feel that fits into the Orff Schulwerk approach?
I love the recorder, and I love teaching recorder, especially because it can go for so long a time, not just a little unit to start with. When kids are first starting, they do need some concentrated time to learn how to hold the recorder, the right way to breathe, to get the best sound, and then just starting with a few notes. But beyond that, I think recorder can go for years and years as it cycles through as a part of the Orff Schulwerk processed lessons, incorporated with movement and tone bars and speech, and not just a recorder piece, but as a part of the whole Orff media.
So you're saying you would include recorder throughout the year, throughout everything you're doing, not just as an isolated unit, these 6 weeks or whatever is the recorder time.
I am saying that. For me, I start with third graders, and we start with a pretty concentrated unit, and I don't send recorders home with the kids until they've learned 3 songs with 3 notes, so that they have something that they can play when they go home. They already know the right way to make a good sound. They know the fingerings for the first notes that we're doing. They have some songs that they can already play, and then I'll send the recorders home so that they can be practicing at home, and they have a recorder at school as well that belongs to the school, so that they don't have to worry about taking it back and forth, and they can be successful at home and not hear, oh, that's terrible, go practice in the garage. I want to make sure they already know the right way to get a good sound.
Right, and because, I mean, kids are going to want to play. If they have a recorder at home, they're going to want to enjoy that. So it makes sense that you would have them, feel successful on those 3 songs, when they get home that first day.
Then they can play for an audience.
Right.
And then extend it.
Based on what we've already talked about, I feel like I can probably guess your answer to this next question, but when you start teaching recorder, do you start with notation or do you start with exploration? And is there, sort of a beginning process for you?
We do start with exploration, but very soon into notation, because my kiddos by 3rd grade, they've already been doing some notation. I start that even in kindergarten and 1st grade with whatever we're working on. But with recorder, we do steps like getting toward the right way to breathe into the recorder, focusing on the breath, how to hold the recorder, and then first notes by echoing, focusing on tonguing. A lot of movement. There are some really great things. One resource that I'd like to recommend is 3 to Get Ready by Judith Thomas Solomon. It's got a couple great pieces that my kids just absolutely love. The Be Ready, where they move around their recorder and then they pick it up and play a pattern on B. And so it's not just sitting and playing. She's got a great piece called The Sheep May Safely Graze Tango. And the kids know that a sheep says ba, which is spelled B-A-A, and that's what they play. But it's a tango, so they move with their recorder, and then they play the pattern. And they move with their recorder, and they play the pattern. And they love that.
I bet. It sounds very different than, and I think back to when I was first learning the French horn, or when kids are learning a band instrument for the first time, it's a very sort of rigid, and this is the way we hold it and do it. And the way you're explaining it sounds like the recorder experience is just so different from that. It's fun and free, and they get to move and play.
Even the way that we hold the recorder, we'll start with what I call the home base race. They know that home base is when they put their left thumb on the back of the recorder, and then they pick it up and bring it to their chin and reach around and find where to hold it with all their fingers down. That's their home base. And we'll often have a home base race. And I'll try to trick them with home alone, homeward bound, homework. And they don't pick it up until I say home base. And it's a race to see who can get it in the right place. And they'll check their neighbors to make sure the left hand's on top. You have to have fun.
Oh, yeah. And what a fun way to reinforce the right way to hold the recorder. I mean, I feel like so often it's, no, you've got to have the left hand on top or whatever. And this just seems like a fun experience for kids where they don't realize that they're having that reinforcement.
Before we ever did recorder, we did a lot of things that they had to use their left hand first. We did a stone passing game, Obuisana, where we were passing it to the left with the macro beat, and then later we did it to the right with the micro beat, so that they already had that experience of which is their left. And we would do left with an L before we got to recorder this year.
Right. Well, you mentioned 3 to get ready. Are there any other go-to recorder resources that you rely on quite a bit?
Jim Solomon's Hot Jams. The kids love some of those things. Recorder Routes I find to be a great resource for me. I pick and choose from a lot of different resources, but those are ones that I often go back to.
I love hearing you say that because I know that there are teachers out there who get something like Recorder Routes or another resource, and they feel like they're sort of limited to that. And it sounds like you pick and choose things that you know fit in with your scope and sequence at that point.
Yes. I also would recommend Recorder Revolutions. The thing that I like about that is the accompaniment tracks that go with it. The kids have really enjoyed that. And when they practice at home, I've put the accompaniment tracks on my blog so that the kids can play along at home.
Wonderful. So do you teach reading notes on the staff in conjunction with recorder, or does that happen at a different time? I mean, how do you include the staff and melodic reading with your Orff Schulwerk approach?
I think I mentioned that I start early, even in kindergarten and first grade. By the time we've gotten to third grade, they're already reading notes on the 5-line staff. But I start early, like in first grade with a 2-line staff, when we're just doing so and me and adding in law. I just do a 2-line staff so that they see the up and down with magnets on a cookie sheet or on my dry erase board or the whiteboard. So we've moved those around with just so and me and then adding in law. And after we've done the 2-line staff, then on the other side of the cookie sheet is a 5-line staff with the treble clef drawn on there. And we'll use the bottom 2 lines before we start moving those notes around.
Well, that seems like a great way to transfer that skill from the very basic 2-line to the 5-line. I know when I first started teaching, I had no idea how to introduce that melodic reading, and I love hearing that you talking about the very basic staff and then moving that to a more traditional staff.
When I was early in my teaching, my own kids were pretty young, and my son is 3 years older than my daughter. And my daughter had said, well, Mom, someday I'm going to be older than Jedediah. Never going to happen. But we use that as an example that they're always going to be the same age distance between them, no matter how old they get. As Jedediah gets older, then Rachel's going to move right behind him. And it's like that with So and Me when we're moving them around on the staff. They always stay the same relationship.
It's a great way that you're doing all of those things early on. I feel like a lot of teachers wait and try and do all the lines and spaces at the same time. And when in my first few years, I didn't know how to introduce that staff, that basic staff, a 2 or 3 line staff. And it's so great to start with the simplified and then make things, more complex as you get older and older.
If you label it whatever vocabulary you're using, if you're using So and Me, then you can label those lines So and Me, and then later add in the letter names as kids are getting to absolute pitch.
Well, Karen, I have really enjoyed this conversation. We've talked about so many things, from beginning mallet technique to beginning pitch percussion, exploration, and recorder, and a lot of other things. Are there any other aspects of the Orff Schulwerk world that you would want to talk about a little bit to someone who's new to Orff Schulwerk?
Well, one thing I would like to say is the importance of movement within an Orff Schulwerk vocabulary. For every lesson, to be aware of your kids and letting them lead, taking cues from them about when they need to be moving and when they're ready for something new.
And are there some indicators that you could look for? I mean, I know that's something you develop over time as a teacher, but are there things that can sort of, be signposts to show you we should be moving now?
Well, usually it's the conversation level rising, especially if it's unrelated to what you're already working on. But I think movement is a great way to start a class too and activate learning. Yeah. It can be something that you use to introduce a song before you ever get to the subject matter of the song. There's so many ways, but kids they have to move. They can't be sitting still.
Well, I know you're involved in teaching Orff levels across the United States every summer. If there was someone who was maybe trepidatious or a little nervous about taking Orff levels, do you have any thoughts or reassurances for them? Yes.
I would encourage anyone that's giving it any thought to really explore the idea and get ready to do it. You'll have great fun. You will make friends that will be lifetime friends because you'll be building a learning community. I think it's important that you know that you'll need to really invest the time. The 2 weeks will be intense. You'll be active, you'll be moving, you'll have homework, but it will be in a spirit of fun and joy. And one of the greatest gifts that you can ever give yourself, and then your students in the long run, but yourself as a learner and as a musician, you'll grow in ways that you wouldn't believe.
Ways that you don't expect too, yeah.
Absolutely. You can't really know what you're getting into until you're into it, but I would like to let people know to be prepared to be moving, so dress comfortably. Give yourself time to be doing your homework and your reading. I know that we all have family obligations, but you're going to want to carve out the time to really be invested for those 2 weeks.
Because it's a lot in a short amount of time. You need the time to process and think and work through that.
You do. And it's nice if you can be in a place where you can work things through with other students, around your homework assignments. Some commuter courses, it's harder than if you're staying in the dorms, but you want to have time to connect with your classmates, to be able to play each other's arrangements and problem solve together.
And what about after someone's done with their 3 levels? What would you say to somebody who wants to get a little bit more training or get a little bit more perspective on the training that they've received?
When you're doing your levels training, I want to encourage people to think about doing it more than once or in different places. We've worked hard to be able to get a common curriculum, but just like within a school district where teachers would be teaching from the same curriculum, each teacher has their own take and what they bring to the party. And if you've done level 1 in one place, and especially after you've finished all 3 levels, consider taking level 1 another place or with a different teacher. And you'll come as a person that has experiences already, but you'll have something new to take away from that experience also. You're a new person every day, and you will find something new as you're a new person and with a new teacher.
I absolutely understand and agree with you, because I think now that I've taken, all my levels in a master class, I think back to level 1 so differently. I think, man, if I could do that again, what I would glean from it. I think it would be just so great to try that again with someone in a different new place.
After I'd done my 3 levels, then when I moved to New York, whenever they needed somebody to fill out a level, they would just say, well, Karen, would you take level 2 this year? Would you take level 3? And so I did every level multiple times just so they'd have enough numbers to run the course. And it was a great experience.
I bet. Did you reuse your homework, or did you redo
No,
that?
I always did it fresh.
I assumed, but
anything that I did.
Well, if you could tell music teachers out there one reason that they should explore Orff Schulwerk, what would it be?
First and foremost, the child. We're in this to be able to work with children, and it's so natural to children, Orff Schulwerk process. The singing and moving and playing, it's at the heart of it, and that's what children are all about. And so it makes so much sense for them.
Well, Karen Petty, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about your experience with Orff Schulwerk and sharing some of your expertise and insights. This has been a really wonderful conversation, and I'm so thankful you took the time to talk with me.
Thank you, David.
Karen Petty has been teaching music to students for over 35 years. In that time, she has been very active with the American Orff Schulwerk Association at both the local and national levels. If you have follow-up questions for Karen, you can email her at kpettyaosa@gmail.com. That's kpettyaosa@gmail.com. That's all for this episode of the podcast, but check back in the coming weeks for more conversations with Orff specialists from around the country. If you're interested in learning more about Orff Schulwerk, finding a local chapter, or attending Orff teacher trainings, you can find all the information you need at aosa.org. My name is David Rao, and you have been listening to Make Moments Matter, a music education podcast.